Beaumont, Texas, 1995. Small town, the kind of place where everybody knows everybody. Kids could ride their bikes and
Safe.
Yeah, totally safe. But that all changed. One January morning, Mary Catherine Edwards, she was a beloved elementary school teacher.
Right.
And she was found murdered in her home.
It's a case that really sticks with you. The crime scene was it was baffling right from the start. Mary was found handcuffed with police grade Smith & Wesson handcuffs, no less, and her head was submerged in the bathtub.
A bathtub full of water. I remember reading that detail and just
Chilling.
Yeah, chilling. And what really got me was that there was no sign of forced entry.
Right. So immediately investigators are thinking, did Mary know her attacker? Did she let someone in, someone she trusted?
It's a question that must have haunted them from day one. And those handcuffs, I mean, what do you make of those?
Well, it certainly raises a lot of questions. Were they meant to mislead investigators, or did they point to someone with law enforcement connections? So the Beaumont Police Department, they called in the Texas Rangers. They put everything into this case. Countless interviews, I mean.
It chased down every lead, every possible angle. But it was like
dead end after dead end.
Yeah. And you have to remember, this was 1995. Forensic technology. It wasn't what it is today. I mean, we take DNA testing for granted now, but back then, it was a different world.
Yeah. They were working without the tools we now consider, well,
essential.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that this wasn't just a problem for Mary's case. This was happening
all over.
Yeah, all over. So many families left waiting for answers that might never come.
It's heartbreaking, really, to think about all those families, all that grief compounded by the lack of answers and the advancements we've seen in forensic science. It's remarkable. I mean, it's given closure to so many families that might have otherwise never seen justice.
For Mary's family and friends, though, they had this unimaginable loss, and the lack of answers just made the grief that much heavier, definitely. And reading through the reports from back then, you can really sense the community's
heartbreak.
Yeah, heartbreak. Like their sense of safety was just shattered. And as time passed, the months turned into years.
And the case went cold.
Exactly.
It's the thing about cold cases, they become these open wounds for communities, a constant reminder of those unanswered questions.
Yeah.
And the fact that someone got away with something terrible.
But even as the years passed and the leads dried up, Mary's loved ones, they never gave up hope.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is. They held on to this belief that somehow, someday, there would be justice for Mary.
That unwavering hope, especially with the investigation at a standstill, and the lack of advanced technology at the time. I mean, that played a huge role, no doubt.
But then something amazing happened. Forensic science. It went through this total transformation. Suddenly, there were new tools, new possibilities.
It was a revolution. DNA analysis and this new technique called genetic genealogy. They started cracking open cold cases left and right. Cases that had been cold for decades were suddenly getting a second look, and families were finally getting answers. And it was really this revolution in forensics that gave Mary's case a second chance. In 2020, the Texas Rangers, they teamed up with the Beaumont Police Department.
Okay.
And they decided to reopen the investigation.
I mean, after all that time, it must have felt like such a
long shot.
Yeah, long shot.
Right, but sometimes all it takes is that one little clue.
Right.
One tiny piece of the puzzle.
To unlock the whole thing.
Exactly. And with these new DNA techniques, investigators were able to go back and re-examine the old evidence, with a fresh perspective. It's like, imagine you're trying to find a needle in a haystack, but this time you have a magnet.
A magnet. And that magnet was genetic genealogy. I got to admit, when I first read about how they used it in Mary's case, I
went away.
Yeah. I mean, can you explain a little bit more about how it works?
Sure. So genetic genealogy, it's basically like building a family tree using DNA.
Yeah.
Investigators can take a DNA sample from a crime scene and compare it to these massive databases looking for familial matches,
Wow.
They trace those connections, work their way through generations until they zero in on a potential suspect.
And in Mary's case, it actually worked.
It did. Genetic genealogy led investigators to a man named Clayton Bernard Foreman. He was 61 years old, living in Ohio.
So they finally had a suspect after all these years.
But here's the thing. This wasn't just some random guy.
What do you mean?
Foreman, he was actually a former classmate of Mary's from high school.
No way.
Yeah. And get this, she was a bridesmaid at his wedding.
You're kidding.
Nope. It's like something out of a true crime novel.
So what happened next? I mean, did they bring Foreman in for questioning?
They did. And they obtained a DNA sample from him, compared it to the evidence from Mary's home. It was a match.
After 26 years.
26 years.
Wow. It's incredible to think that they finally had their answer.
It really speaks to the power of these advancements in forensic science, but it also speaks to the dedication of those investigators.
Right.
They never gave up.
They embraced the new technology.
They did. And ultimately, they brought a sense of closure to a case that had haunted that community for so long.
So what happened to Foreman?
He was arrested in Ohio in April 2021, charged with capital murder.
Wow. I can't imagine what that must have been like for both communities.
Yeah.
Beaumont, where, Mary's memory was still so vivid, and
Right.
Reynoldsburg, Ohio, where Foreman had been living.
Right. It was like the past had suddenly come crashing into the present.
And for Mary's family, it must have been such a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, relief that an arrest had been made. But also, the resurfacing of all that pain from their loss.
Absolutely.
After all those years of waiting and wondering.
Suddenly, it was all back in the spotlight.
So the trial, that began in late 2021.
Yes. In Jefferson County, Texas, the courtroom was packed. Family, friends, reporters.
Everybody
was there to witness what they hoped would be the final chapter in this long and heartbreaking story. The prosecution, they laid out a really meticulous case. They used DNA evidence, witness testimony, details from the crime scene. They really painted a picture of Foreman's guilt.
What about those handcuffs, the police grade ones? Did they ever figure out where those came from?
They did. They traced the origin of the handcuffs.
Okay.
And they were able to link them back to Foreman through his personal connections.
So it wasn't just a random crime of opportunity.
No, it suggested that this was premeditated.
What about the defense? What was their strategy?
They tried to challenge the DNA evidence, of course.
Right.
But the science was it was too strong.
And then you had the testimonies from Mary's family and friends.
Right, sharing their memories of her, talking about the impact her loss had on their lives. It was powerful.
Yeah.
It really brought that human element to the case.
Right.
It wasn't just about facts and evidence anymore.
It was about a life stolen.
Exactly.
A family shattered.
It really resonated with the jury. After hours of deliberation, they came back with a guilty verdict.
Guilty of capital murder.
Yes. Foreman was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Wow. For Mary's loved ones, that must have brought such a sense of closure.
Yeah.
Knowing that the man responsible for taking her life would never be free again.
And for those who worked tirelessly on the case, it must have been so rewarding to finally see justice served.
It shows the power of perseverance.
Absolutely. The importance of embracing new technology. The unwavering commitment to seeking truth, no matter how much time has passed.
It really makes you think, about the power of forensic science. But there's another layer to the story that we haven't really talked about.
Oh.
The ethical side of things.
Right.
Using genetic genealogy to solve crimes, it raises a lot of questions.
It does. I mean, this case and others like it, they've sparked a lot of debate about privacy and the use of genetic information in investigations.
Yeah.
As this technology keeps getting more advanced, it's
a slippery slope.
Yeah. Where do we draw the line? How do we balance the pursuit of justice with the right to privacy?
It's like, on the one hand, you have this incredible tool that can help bring closure to families.
Right.
And hold criminals accountable. But then, you have to think about how that information is collected and stored.
And used. And it's not just about the individuals whose DNA is actually in those databases.
It's their families.
Yeah. Their relatives, people who never consented to having their genetic information used in this way.
It's a complicated issue, no easy answers.
Nope.
But it's a conversation we need to have, especially as genetic genealogy becomes more
common.
Yeah, more commonplace in law enforcement. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Mary Catherine Edwards' case, what stands out to you most?
Well, for me, I think it's the way this case highlights the convergence of science, human perseverance, and the complexities of memory and justice.
Yeah.
You see this groundbreaking use of DNA technology.
Which is amazing.
It is. It's a real testament to human ingenuity,
yeah.
And our constant pursuit of answers.
But it's also a reminder that, behind every case file, every headline,
there were real people.
Yeah. Real people whose lives have been forever changed by these events. It makes you wonder how many other cold cases are out there just waiting for that one breakthrough.
Right.
That one piece of evidence that could unlock the truth.
It's a sobering thought. But, there's hope there, too.
Right.
As technology keeps evolving.
Who knows what other mysteries might be solved? What other families might finally get those answers they've been searching for?
It's what makes this field so fascinating. It's constantly evolving, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And for listeners who are intrigued by Mary's story and the power of forensic science, I encourage you to dig deeper. There are so many stories out there. Each one offers a glimpse into the human experience.
Absolutely. The pursuit of justice.
Yeah.
The incredible things we can accomplish when we combine science with just pure determination.
Keep asking questions, stay curious,
And never underestimate the power of one small clue.
to unravel even the most intricate mysteries.
Well said.
And as you go about your day-to-day, remember Mary Catherine Edwards.
Yes.
Remember her story, her family's resilience, and the power of hope, even in the face of unimaginable tragedy.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time, stay curious.